People from across the country are grieving tonight after 4 people from the mid-state were killed in a small plane crash in Colorado.
Steve Mailing reports that 2 of the victims are local businessmen.
Tributes are pouring in across the country, remembering Aaron Stokes for the person he was. The Middle Tennessee entrepreneur was on a small plane with his son Jackson, his nephew Colin, and friend Austin Huskey when the plane went down in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, about 3 hours from Denver Friday morning. Stokes founded Eurofix, an auto repair company for European-made vehicles, and also founded ShopFix Academy, a consulting business for other auto shops across the country. Aaron was also remembered for his beliefs, with active roles in his church in Franklin, as well as his work as a missionary and youth pastor. Businesses across the country spoke highly of Stokes and how his leadership helped their shops garner success. Huskey was a third-generation owner of Huskey Truss and Building Supply, a family-owned staple in Middle Tennessee. ShopFix Academy released a statement saying in part, quote, he encouraged business owners to pursue excellence while prioritizing their families and communities alongside their companies. His legacy extends far beyond financial performance, influencing leaders across North America. The Academy also warned people that there are currently no fundraisers up to support families and not to donate to causes that claim to be helping the families in the wake of their loss. The NTSB is investigating the cause of the crash in Steamboat Springs. For WSMV4, I'm Steve Mailing.